Hi everyone, it's Lauren and welcome back to another episode of BYOB. In this series I ask people to come on my channel and bring their own booze or drink, it doesn't have to be alcoholic, and bring their own books. So today I'm joined by the lovely Angelica.
Hello.
Whose channel is Rekorderlig.
I actually switched it just to my name, but my address is /Rekorderlig, so that's fine.
Okay, well I will link it in the description box below, don't worry, we'll have the correct handle. So what have you bought for us to drink today?
Rekorderlig.
We've got some fruity cider.
Which is so good, and I think I've had it in the past, but I just got back to London and I was like, what's a drink that we could have together I don't know if we have this in the US.
You don't you?
We may have it, but I don't know. It's not as common, I don't think.
Okay, so for you, this is like a London drink.
And I had it at the weekend, and I was like, this is what we're going to have.
This is the one. Cool. And today we're going to be talking about graphic novels.
Yes.
Now, I don't read that many graphic novels, really. I have read them, but I would say the reason I've read them really is because of BookTube. I don't think there was any other kind of outside influence for me to read them until that point. Yeah. So we're going to have a little bit of a discussion.
And by the way, I don't think I'm a connoisseur at all either. I don't think I know a lot. I just enjoy reading them. So,
but that's enough. That's what BookTube is basically. No one's really a connoisseur of anything. It's just I enjoy reading this kind of thing. So let me talk about it. So the first thing we were going to ask was what got us into graphic novels. What was the first graphic novel you read, I guess? So what was it for you?
I think it was actually the Encyclopedia of Early Earth.
Was it? Really?
Yeah, or something
like that. Well, that's
handy.
Lucky you should say that, because we have a prop of the Encyclopedia of Early Earth right here. So what made you pick this one up then?
I'm pretty sure it was Sana from Books and Quills. Yeah, because it was right at the beginning when I first started watching BookTube videos, and was like, that looks so cool, and I bought it while I was still in college, and just loved it and went on from there. And I loved how the story was, because I love myths and stuff like that, and the storytelling part of it, and I loved the art. And so ever since then I think I've been attracted to beautiful books. Okay. Beautiful graphic novels.
Well, this certainly is very beautiful. I remember Sana had it on her shelf for ages as well. I kind of agree. I remember those videos when she first put this up. It's probably one of the first times I saw this kind of graphic novel. Yeah. Because I was aware of comic books and that kind of thing. Yeah. But this is kind of lots of different creation myths, really, isn't it? It's lots and lots of little short stories. Yeah. This is by Isabel Greenberg, but it is quite, it's an interesting art style, I would say. I don't think this is an art style I would be naturally drawn to.
Right. Yeah, I think it's original, and I think that's why I was kind of drawn to it, because I hadn't seen anything like that before, popularized, and I thought that was more of I found it very indie and kind of cool. And actually, now that you mentioned that, that's the first graphic novel that I bought with my own money. Okay. But now I remember reading Persepolis in school, as a required reading for a social studies class. Really? Yeah. That's
really cool. I heard of it when they animated it and turned it into a film. But I think that was the first serious graphic novel that I'd heard of. But I guess because in France, the kind of comic genre is so much more highly thought of.
Oh yeah. In France, isn't it more politically driven comics in general? Maybe.
Yeah, I wouldn't know, so I wouldn't like to comment because I'm not an expert on it.
Huge
it's isn't it like this in France? But I feel like the sort of bande dessinée thing is quite the artists are quite famous, all of them, and it's not seen of as a lesser genre, whereas I feel like in the UK, perhaps in the States as well, it is a bit more, perhaps graphic novels have a little bit of that I don't want to say taint, they're tainted, because that makes it sound bad, but they've got the kind of aura of comic book and a nerd culture thing, whereas in France I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I think it's either nerd culture or progressive anti against the machine, those two dichotomies. But we're not in France, so.
But we're not in France. We have a 20-minute video talking about France.
So what are books that you or graphic novels that you're drawn to now, or what in graphic novels are you drawn to now?
I don't know. That's such a difficult question, because I think for me it really is probably more the story than just the design. Because that's something I'm used to reading, probably. I'm used to reading stuff and focusing on the words, and I've never been that sort of into art for its own sake anyway, or I've just not been that artistic kind of design wise, so I wouldn't go, oh, that's a really good style of art that I enjoy. So I tend to go on stuff based on people's recommendations rather than based on what I've seen in a shop. What
kind of stories do you like in graphic novels, do you think?
The ones that I have really enjoyed, which I have on the floor. let me just, I should have put these in a better position. So the ones that I've read and really enjoyed have been ones where I feel like the story, it's either been a memoir, like Persepolis, or it's been where I feel like the story has been really well crafted. So I really enjoyed Fun Home, which is by Alison Bechdel. This is an autobiographical graphic novel, and it's most of it's kind of in black and white or kind of grayscale. And it's about Alison Bechdel growing up in her household, working out that she's gay, and then also understanding later that her father is also gay, and kind of unpicking their difficult relationship from when she was growing up. And it's quite philosophical. What she does really well in this is because it is a memoir, but the way she structures it, the way she kind of is omniscient about her own future, like it is almost like it is a novel. Like she's a kind of outside narrator, and she's very good at looking very objectively at her own life. So that might be why I enjoy it, because it is almost like...
I would agree with you if it reads like a novel, and like I think when authors do memoirs and go back and kind of pick up on these metaphors or symbols in their life, then they kind of can string them together in a narrative, even though it's a memoir. Because I feel like with memoirs in general, a lot of times the writer is just trying to make sense of something that has happened. But yeah. So
it's like putting a narrative on your own life to try and make sense of it and kind of make it like it has this beginning, middle and end, which lives don't really have.
So. Right, exactly.
So what kind of stuff do you look for then? What have been your favourite ones that you've read, do you think?
Well, I also am really drawn to graphic memoir and graphic novels that have to do with people's lives and based off of real events. And there's, I was gonna bring this, but then I was like, I don't have room in my suitcase.
Oh no.
Is anything by Julia Wirtz. And she's from California, and she moved to New York City at a time in her life when everything kind of went wrong. Drinking at the Movies is a memoir where it's just about her moving there and everything she goes through, and it's also her relationship with her alcoholism.
Oh, right, okay.
And how she figured it out. And her humor is really self-deprecating and very like, oh, I have like a heart of ice and I'm very cold and I'm mean and stuff like that, but she's actually really not. She's like a sweetheart inside. And just her relationship with her brother and all of this really good stuff. And her style is very simple. It's just like very, very cartoonish in a sense. And then the artistic side, I am drawn, like if I see something pretty, I'll be like, ooh, what's that? But
that draws you in.
Yeah. But that happened with The Wicked and the Divine. Did you?
Oh, yes. I've not read it, but I have seen a lot of reviews of it. What did you think of that? Because I found that was very mixed.
Yeah.
Lots of people loved it or thought it was going to be really brilliant, and then when they read it, they didn't love the content as much.
I was in the second camp.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, it's so beautiful and vibrant, and the color scheme is amazing, and yeah, it's gorgeous, but I didn't understand the story. And I think that maybe it was one of those where you had to keep reading to kind of get all the parts.
Yeah, do you know what? I really resent that though. Yeah. I resent any book where it's like, oh, you have to read these 5 before you start enjoying it. I'm just like, no, well, I don't want to put myself through that. If I'm not enjoying it now, then I'll start reading.
Yeah, exactly. I think that Saga is kind of what The Wicked and Divine is trying to do, but just does it more concisely. So obviously they're two completely different stories or topics. I mean, Saga is about, I think it's like Romeo and Juliet if they didn't die and it was in outer space.
that kind of sums it up pretty well. It's sort of like 2 opposing camps, aren't they? And they fall in love.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of Saga?
I am. I think that it's super fun, and I love the narration behind it because it's like the child, but I feel like you understand what's happening right away, and so it's not this confusing long it's definitely sequential in that you need to keep reading to like find out what happens, and I think it's mostly just about plot, but that's okay with me. Whereas like The Wicked and the Divine,
as long as you understand it as you're going through the story, you don't mind that you have to keep and
with The Wicked and the Divine I was like, I don't understand why this matters.
One book that I did enjoy, kind of the art and the story for, was The Wrong Place by Brett Evans, which is this little book here. And I picked this up completely on a whim when I was just in a comic book store. And I really enjoy all the art because it's all kind of watercolour. And it's so interesting and beautiful, and I was really drawn to it, but I really liked the story as well. It's just about this guy, who is kind of grey, this like grey man here, who's trying to get a party and get his really fun friend to come to the party, and all the other people at the party are only there because they think his fun friend's going to be there, and no one really likes him. So it's a little bit kind of existential, and it's like him trying to enjoy himself and find his friend, and they all go to this like crazy club, and it's not really about, I can't tell you what the story is. I don't think there was really like a proper plot. It's kind of just about modern society. He kind of reminded me of the Ed Norton character in like Fight Club. Like he was that kind of person who just like needs that fun person to bring them out of themselves. And I really loved it. It was such a kind of random pick. But I really enjoyed this. So that would be like my recommendation, I guess.
Yeah.
As a graphic novel that I've really enjoyed.
Yeah. I think that if I was going to recommend a graphic novel to just get, if you're like, what should I read first, would definitely be Nimona.
Oh, see, I've not read Nimona. I've heard so many good things about it.
It was my favourite book the year that I read it.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. It's just so fun. It's basically, there's this girl who shows up to this villain's house because they're in this society where there's like a clearly labeled villain and a clearly labeled hero, and she asks to be his sidekick, and he's like, I don't need a sidekick, and she's like, but I can do really cool things and help you, and he agrees to that, and then you slowly uncover how the sort of community that they're all in is twisted and on its head in certain ways, and you learn about like what's good and evil and morality and stuff like that. But it's really lighthearted. Noelle Stevenson as an artist, super great, really good place to start. If you're looking for something more, I want to know more about graphic novels and kind of go deeper, is The Sculptor by Scott McCloud. This guy who basically makes a deal with the devil to have like a certain number of days to be as successful an artist as he can be, and he's a sculptor, and it's about that, and then he falls in love.
Oh no. Bum, bum, bum.
And I read it at a time in my life where I really needed to read it, and I definitely cried a lot.
Oh, that's a really great recommendation. I've not heard of that one.
Yeah.
Well, I'll link all of the books that we mentioned in this video will be linked in the description box below, so if you do want to check them out.
I'm so sorry, it's going to be such a long...
What?
It's going to be work. That's my least favorite part of making
videos.
The editing. It's like putting in the description all the stuff that has been mentioned.
Oh, it doesn't take long.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long. So if you want to check any of these books out further, then you can do so. Cool. Well, thanks so much, Angelica, for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Interesting discussion, and thank you for these.
Yeah.
This is so indulgent for like a Monday night, like after work, having some strawberry cider.
It doesn't feel too heavy at all either, so it's kind of like the perfect Monday
It's kind of
night
like Ribena. It kind of makes you feel like you're not actually drinking alcohol, so it's kind of perfect in a way. So as I said, Angelica's channel is linked in the description box below as well, so do go and check her out and subscribe to her. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!
Bye!